In today's episode,
So you mentioned building rapport, right? And like the book, like I read that book when I was like 14 as well,
Right.
And it was just one of those foundational books that I feel like anyone can gain from that book. Even though when you read it, sometimes it sounds so obvious, but often the most insightful things are obvious, right? Because they're relatable. Like it says, I think one of the things I remember is remembering people's names or using their first name, because everyone likes to hear their name, right? And like that's one of those things where you hear it, you're like, yeah, of course that makes sense. But when you see it written out in a prescriptive format like that, it really helps give a framework, and I think it's really helpful. I've heard you talk about names specifically.
Yeah, well, until you realize 80 or 90% of people don't do it. So
Yeah.
it does set you apart if you use names quite frequently. It sets you apart considerably if in a situation you're able to engage multiple people and you shift the conversation to be about them rather than about you as often as possible.
Yeah.
And the way that I remember names, I've kind of explained this before, is not so much mnemonic hooks. I'm not doing some people do that, they create a story in their head. I make sure that I hear the name properly at least twice and repeat it at least twice. Most people don't remember the name because at the moment they meet someone, there's so many other things going on in their mind. In that moment, you lose track.
Yeah.
So if you, when you're shaking someone's hand and meeting them or saying anything, are thinking of what you're going to say next, you're not capturing that name. You're not capturing that moment. You need to take away everything that's distracting you, look them in the eye, make sure you hear the name, repeat it, give a compliment associated with the name. Those are all things to capture that name and make sure you have it in your head.